lines summed up the behavior of the gas industry succinctly. This is a rogue industry. Are we so desperate for short-term infusion of jobs and cash to be willing to invite them into our community? Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Len D. Workman, 681 Ivory Foster Road. I say good evening to you once again. During over 40 years of my professional ministry as a clergyman, I was involved in dealing with conflicts between couples, among families, between advocacy groups, among religious and secular groups, conflicts relating to our internal battles where we don't know what to do, and of course conflicts between many of us and God or no God. Some of those situations were managed very well by all concerned, and many benefited, at least by living satisfactorily with conditions that could not be changed. And some conflicts were even resolved with great rejoicing. One of the things we learn in working with disagreements is that if we can identify areas of shared values, we may arrive at some really great positive outcomes. If I can come to know and appreciate the other's values, and if the other can get to know and appreciate mine, and if we can together find goals that live out those values, then our lives may move forward in ways that we had not imagined. I think that we have many shared values in our community. These can cluster around enhancing economic opportunities, maintaining stewardship of the environment, providing resources in many needy circumstances, sharing opportunities equitably, apportioning responsibilities fairly, or doing all we can to at least preserve things for the next generation. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to recall a phrase. It's when we take shared values and put them into specific goals and detailed strategies and tactics that we come upon such differences of conviction that often we're dealing with a zero-sum game, where we have only winners and losers. One of the reasons I think a moratorium is a helpful thing is that it may open an opportunity that could be helpful to us all as we go deeper than we have thus far gone to appreciate our shared values and work as we haven't done so far to achieve desired outcomes. As I visited many people with the petition, I was struck by the fact that those who did not sign it because they wanted fracking, or those who did not sign because they really wanted more information, they all, or almost all, voiced concern about our water supply and the aquifer. Now that seems to be the most crucial value that we all share. But it's obvious that we have disagreement about how to implement the shared value. And now two rhetorical questions for you. Where do you come down on how we live out our shared values about water? Where will we all end up one way or another? Thank you.
Name's Don Russell. I live at Harnick Road, 307 Harnick Road. This has nothing to do with the fracking. I just want to get this over with. I have a petition, I don't know whether it's a legal one, but it's a homemade petition signed by everybody on Harnick Road. We would like to have something done with the speed limit posted, because since they shut the bridge down on the other end in Pennsylvania, they detoured all the traffic onto our road. As residents, we've talked to the town supervisor and asked them about when the calcium was going to be put on the road. I'm telling you, there is 3 inches of dust on my house, everybody up and down the road's house. They won't slow down. There's going to be a major accident. It's a single lane road. Over the bank from my house, they have put, I said to the town when they were over there doing the road, you guys need to put guardrail there. I've been doing heavy equipment operation, highway work, everything for over 35 years. I says to them, you know, somebody wrecks right there or goes off into that creek, you guys are liable. So they figured out what would save them. They put poles with reflectors onto it. I have 2 grandchildren that I'm raising since they were babies. I'm protective of them. Everybody else on that road has children. We'd like to get this is a petition filed by everybody on the road. Even some of your county officials sign this that live on that road or use that road. It is a danger. It needs to be patrolled. It needs to have a posted speed limit onto it. It is, that's all I want to bring this to your attention.
Please, I'll take that. And
It's, somebody's going to get killed.
next week we talk to Mark. Have you talked to-
Yes, we called them all, they said it was gonna be 2 weeks, and they turned around and told us, okay, it'll be 2 weeks. It's now been 4 weeks, because they said they had to do a little bit of work on the road, and there's no calcium. You can wash your vehicle on the one day, 5 minutes later, you got 3 inches of dust on it, because they want, and it's, I have to admit, some of them are younger kids with their trucks. Because when they first shut the bridge down over there, they went over and took the road closed signs out of the way so we could keep going around. I just want to bring it to you guys' attention. We did a petition. I don't know whether it's a legal one. We just, a friend of mine drawed it up on a computer. Me and my wife went around and had everybody sign it. Thank you.
We'll address that. Thank you, Mr. Murphy?
Marty Murphy, Matt Valley Road, Owego. Again, thanks for the opportunity. I guess the first thing I'd like to say is a request that the board would ask the speakers when they speak and make comments that are quoted as fact, that they make it verifiable information, that they give enough information that what they're saying can be verified. We've heard some comments around here tonight, spoken as fact, but we have no way of checking it. The people who are for natural gas drilling, people who are against natural gas drilling really want the same thing. We both want the same thing. We both want to protect our environment. One of the differences, those who support natural gas drilling feel that the regulations from the DEC and the leases that we have had drawn up will protect the environment and allow for safe natural gas drilling. People against it feel that they will not. But that's a difference of opinion. The landowners who support it base their views on over 4 years of research by the DEC and experts throughout the state. I am not aware of any research of over 4 years that the people against it have to back their statements. Instead, they offer anecdotal statements to back up their arguments. But it's not based on 4 years of research. It's not based on science, not based on fact, it's not based on history. They're anecdotal statements, individual incidences that have happened, but it's not representative of a system failure. You cannot have 100% safety in everything we do. We know that. They mention your, and I have not read this document, but comprehensive plan. It sounds like they want to pick and choose how you enforce that.
Sir, address the town board, not what people have already spoken about.
Okay. The comprehensive plan. You cannot pick and choose. You want to support, you want to protect the health, safety, and welfare. You cannot say ban hydrofracturing because it's going to pollute the air or the water without banning motor vehicles, home heating systems, or anything else that pollutes the air. You would have to ban all of that. You cannot pick and choose. The last meeting I made a comment that there is not one community in New York State or the United States that has unsafe drinking water due to natural gas drilling. The speaker after me got up and said Pavilion, Wyoming, and Pavilion was mentioned again today. So I sent an email to the EPA after going through their documents, and I have researched this over 2 years. I contacted the
the Wyoming Oil and Gas Commission and spoke to Janie Nelson, the Natural Resource Program Supervisor. She's in charge now out there since the supervisor retired. She is with the Wyoming Oil and Gas Commission. So I asked her about Pavilion again. That's still an ongoing situation. The evaluation is still going on. The person who spoke the last time was referring to a December 2011 draft of the EPA's findings. It's a draft. There has been no final determination as to what has caused the contamination. And that contamination is not with the town of Pavilion. The complaints have been brought by 4 ranchers. That's all it's dealing with. 4 ranchers, individual private wells. The town aquifer is fine, she stated. In fact, the town offered to give them water while this investigation goes on, and the residents of Pavilion refused it. They said it's unnecessary expense. That their water is fine. These 4 individuals who brought the complaint are the only ones involved in this situation. So again, I will say, there is no community in the United States that has unsafe drinking water due to natural gas drilling. And if anybody knows one, I'd like to know of it. Thank you.
My name is William Houston. I live in the town of Union. I'm wondering if I can have permission to speak.
No. Point of order.
Not right now. So I have town residents, and then we'll see if we have a little.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But thank you for being on.
Good evening. My name is Donna Warner. I live at 12 Standish Drive, Appalachian, New York. Mr. Castellucci, board members, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you. And I'm here to urge you to please protect our community from special interest groups which make a lot of money at our expense. Why would I or other people want to keep landowners from getting money which they so desperately need because of high taxes and low employment? Why would we want to do that to them? If they could pour poisons into their own drinking water and not into ours, we would probably not have a huge problem, although a future generation should be of concern. But when fracking fluid is put into the ground, it doesn't stay under their land. It goes all over the place, and it is taken all over the place in trucks. Some of the reasons that we would like you to consider are, we don't want billions of gallons of our cleanest water turned into toxic waste that will be pumped into the ground. It will be. We don't want our beautiful land turned into an industrialized commercial site that will benefit a few, a very few, at the expense of the other 90%. We don't want the toxic flowback that frackers pump out of the ground to pollute our land and rivers. And our sewage systems can't be given that job of cleaning it up because they're inadequate for such a job. They can't do it. We don't want the noise pollution, increased traffic, and road repairs that fracking causes. We don't want to bear the health costs, financial and personal. Cancer is no fun. The chemicals in fracking fluid are known to cause cancer. And the only reason that frackers can use them is that they managed to get Dick Cheney to exempt them from the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts. They should not be exempt from them in New York State. Those acts were to protect citizens. Why should they be exempt? Why should they need to be exempt if they're not poisoning the land? We don't need the gas now. There's a glut on the market. But we may sometime in the future when safer methods have been found to extract it. The gas companies are now selling gas to foreign countries. Hardly the kind of action that will make us independent of foreign oil. We don't want a boom and bust economy. We don't want the kind of dangerous jobs that the gas drillers offer. We do want viable, sustainable, environmentally friendly industries that will provide a good future for the citizens of New York. And why don't we hear about polluted water? We don't hear about polluted water because of those non-disclosure agreements. Why would there be all of these hundreds of non-disclosure agreements if they didn't have something serious to hide? They wouldn't want them. We vote for the people who protect us from powerful interest groups. It is the job of our elected officials to protect all our citizens, not just some parts of the state. When fracking is safe enough for the New York City watershed, we might believe that it is safe enough for all of us. We want an immediate ban on fracking in the town of Owego. At least 114 municipalities have bans or moratoria on fracking, and the New York State Supreme Court has upheld our right to do so. Thank you.
I'll talk for more than 2 minutes. Mike can throw his boot at me. Or maybe somebody with a smaller boot can throw it at me. Craig Yoakum, South Appalachian Road, 50-year resident. I think I probably mentioned that before. Just have a couple questions. Marcellus gas is so bad. Why do 99% of the people who signed the petition heat and cook with the gas? One would think that the chemicals in their gas and they're cooking with it. I just kind of question that. I also was looking at the petition, the first petition. I'm about 80% through it. 2 out of the 1,000 live in an area that might have drilling. 2. And here's another question for you. They keep talking about the sole source aquifer, the Clinton Ballpark sole source aquifer. The #1 cause of water quality problems in the whole country is sewage, raw sewage, and partially digested sewage. It's been coming from Binghamton for over 7 years, right down through this area. I would think if you're really worried about water quality, there it is. Go after that. It could be that the municipality that's coming from is part of their party, and they don't want to ruffle any feathers that way. I've worked with the DEC for almost 30 years in timber harvesting, and I'm here to tell you, and you probably already know it, that they can overregulate just about anything, and they can do it all day long. The thought that they can't regulate gas drilling is about the most absurd thought in the world. And something else, people in the rural part of the town really want this, and anything you can do to move that forward, we would sure appreciate it. And another thing, rural people have different values. They usually don't go out to town board meetings. They don't make themselves seen. They just do their own thing. Many of them have been generation after generation on the same land. In the rural parts of the town, you can strap on a short gun, carry a rifle, walk down the road, your neighbors will wave at you. Try doing that in the village. You'll have the SWAT after you. Manure truck comes down the road in the rural area, dribbles a little manure, big deal, nobody says anything about it. Try doing that down Lake Street. People have different values. If the people in the village, in the Tioga Terrace, and the Crestview Heights areas would worry about themselves and not worry about us, that would be fine. Thank you. Oh, and I got you a DVD watch. You've heard of Gasland? This is Truth Land. This is from EPA, Environmental Defense Council, and a whole bunch. That tells the truth. Oh, this is great.
Good evening. My name is Linda Pierce, 807 Lily Hill Road, Appalinka, New York. I have 2 things. One is, I think it's really going to come down to what type of gas fracturing are we going to have for our community? I'd like for everybody to take a real strong look at the gas fracking with the propane versus the hydrofracking. It has a much smaller footprint environmentally wise. I mean, it uses just a small number of the millions of gallons of water because you don't have the truck issues, you don't have the chemical issues. So if we're going to get fracturing for our natural resources in this area, I really think that we need to strongly pursue that avenue. The other thing I'd like for everybody to start thinking about and put in a very, very, very early plan is what are we going to do with the money that these revenues are going to start generating for our town's tax base. I want very hard to have it looked at that we can now start building for our future. I know the village of Owego, town of Owego, Appalachian, we all need so much because we've been several number of years on almost an austerity budget because we just don't have the resources, and then after a flood we have less. So let's start looking at what are we going to do if we get the gas fracturing in our area. What are we going to do with our school systems and our roads and our just basic community vitality, and how are we going to preserve this windfall for our future? Let's don't just go out there and start, oh, we got an extra $15 million this year, let's spend it. No, let's put it away for the future, take just a small portion of that, and start rebuilding the infrastructure of our community. Will it bring us in more jobs? I'm not sold on that yet, but if we have cheaper natural gas in this area, I've heard ridiculous numbers clear down to a quarter cubic foot that we'll be paying versus what is it now? I don't know, $2, $3 a foot or cubic foot. We're all going to have
That's why they shut the wells.
all kinds of offshoots. We're going to have more money in our personal pockets. And my thoughts is let's don't reduce our taxes to accommodate the windfall. Let's keep generating the revenue, put it into the bank, and let's build for our future and not squander it away. Thank you.
If any of you made comments and wish them to be included in the record, if you could present them to me tonight. Because I tried to write down what you say, but it's more beneficial if I have them written, and I'd be glad to take them. I don't want to show favoritism to one half over the other, so feel free to drop them off before you leave tonight, okay? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Showalter. I live at 5 Frederick Drive, Appalachian. I have moved from Vestal. I wanted to say that I'm very pleased that we had children standing up tonight, and they're very important in decision making, and I don't feel, as some of you might, that their parents have put them up to this. I feel that they do have minds of their own, and that they feel as strongly as we do. They get their information a lot of times from school, from the news, from outside sources, friends. And it's just, they need to stand up just as much as we do, and I'm grateful that they did. I'm not gonna give my opinion on fracking. I do have another concern, and that's when the flood occurred, we were very affected by Castle Gardens, where the power source comes from, and we kept losing. We lost everything, and I just really feel that we need another power source, maybe in the terrace or wherever you can put it, because if we keep it in Castle Gardens, we're always going to lose electricity and whatnot because they get flooded.
I've been in contact actually with NICEAG since the flood, and they are trying to remediate that issue. It's a lot of money, but they are looking at trying to do something to either move that transformer or try to mitigate that, so it's happened twice. And, so they can't, I can't give you an answer on that. I can just tell you the NICE is aware of it. They're aware of my concerns, our concerns regarding that, and they are trying to address it. But I don't have any specifics for you at this time.
Great, thank you very much.
Hi, Superintendent Lucci and the board. My name is Joe Chartrand, Joe Chartrand, 7867 Montrose Turnpike, here in Owego. I'm married to Marion Crawford, not Marion Crawford Chartrand. Roger Crawford is my brother-in-law. The Shaws and the Crawfords have owned land here in the township since 1849. They've been farming out there on the Montrose Turnpike since that time. And they've been paying taxes on that land since that time. Since 1990-ish, taxes on that land have over quadrupled. For an example, a $100 tax bill in 1990 on an acre of land is now $400. Being a dairy farmer out there is getting pretty tough, guys. And I'm here to tell you that fracking, hydraulic fracking, propane fracking, whatever kind of fracking you want to do, is the way us farmers have to go. I understand that the people who live in town don't face that. But how would you like to get a tax bill on 400 acres of land every year and have to produce that kind of money? We have families out there now that are scrapping junk, that are cutting trees because their taxes are delinquent and they're trying to pay them. So I'm here to tell you that the Chartrands and the Crawford families strongly oppose any restrictions for harvesting our God-given natural resources. As owners of over 400 acres of farmland, we support the right to allow residents to elect whichever options they choose. Neither town, country, or state has the right to interfere with our God-given rights to use our land as we see fit. Those who do not wish to have drilling take place on their land can make that decision for themselves. But please, leave us alone. The 2%ers who are backed by the dollars of the large anti-drilling groups should not be allowed to dictate how American citizens use our land. The chicken littles who believe the sky is falling should stay out of the way of the badly needed economic stimulus natural gas drilling and harvesting can and will provide. All their stories of water and land pollution have been disproven. Those folks in Pennsylvania, I think it's the Dimmock area, my father and grandfathers would tell you, have been lighting their water on fire for generations. It was a game over there with kids many, many years ago. Gas drilling and fracking has had nothing to do with the fact they can light their water on fire. Please do the right thing for the landowners and the town and the county. Do not pass any ban on gas development in our township. To do so would be an infringement on our civil liberties. Just because us country folks have little or no money to organize a campaign against anti-fracking local protesters is no reason to throw us in the township under the bus. Thank you.
Who did this?
That's better. Okay. I promise not to use any facts.
How about your name?
Paul, fact. Paul Salamita, 250 to Grove Road, Appalachian, New York. I'm one of those landowners. I'm also a conservationist. I'm also a member of the New York State Forest Owners Association. Lived here in Broome County all my life. I don't envy you all. You have the hardest job. Previous speaker said, commented, that all you're hearing here tonight is opinion laced with emotion, which is true. You can go to the internet, you can find on both sides of this story anything you want to find and believe anything you want to believe, but some facts remain about what this state has done, about the number, how long the study has gone on. I think the number reached comments on the plans that were set forward and the reports came out of the state of well over 1 million comments were taken. Studies by the EPA, studies by the state, studied to death. 50 years almost of fracking, over 1 million wells. And a gentleman earlier stated, they haven't found one. Not one. They got one that they think. So your decision here, I pray, is not based so much on our emotion, not on documents or papers we give you, but on the volumes of work that we have all paid for through the EPA, through the state boards, to produce what is now blessed as a safe plan, environmentally safe, if towns decide to go forward. Everybody has a little thing here on, you know, to get their point across, and thank God we're all free to say that, stand up here and say it. But the facts are what are already out there. All the facts you need and we need when we come to public comment on this are already there. You know, not the papers or things we do. They're calling little pieces of facts, you know, to make a point from emotion. I disagreed earlier with, and I'm glad someone pointed out about, I hope the children aren't here because I'm not going to turn around, about using children to do this. This is our responsibility, all of us. I take it very seriously. I take it seriously the decision that has to be made, and I just didn't go out and say, oh boy, drill here. Because I don't think a lot of people realize, they may not be aware, that it isn't the landowner so much who's getting the money, but you know the way this, I don't expect an answer because we can't engage in the discussion. I don't know if they know the way that money is planned to be allocated by the state, and what part of that money stays in the local township for the local school boards, which would equate to an enormous amount. It would stay right here in Tioga County. Not for the landowner, comes through the revenues and for the taxes that are on this thing. The state gets some goes to the landowner gets to pay the increased taxes because their property value went up. I've never seen a property value ever go down because they had a producing gas well, ever. And someone can show me a producing gas well property where the value went down? Hello? It just doesn't happen, it defies logic. But anyway, the money, they're working it out in Albany now as to how it's distributed. And you know New York can always find a way to mush the taxes around. But a lion's share of the money stays, never leaves this county, never leaves the municipality where it's produced, where the revenue is produced. That benefits us all, benefits all of us. And it benefits not just a money thing, but it's some way to get our economy moving, to get things moving. And I followed it for the last several years, and comment after comment, and looked at the plans. I don't know how many people have reviewed the environmental impact plans that are put out there. And when you get the EPA and the DEC to say they have a safe, workable plan, that's a major, major accomplishment. So I pray you have a tough job, but you do it based on the facts. Appreciate our emotion, but we got to deal with it from the point of view of real facts. Okay? Thank you.
Can I say one thing about the fracking?
Everybody else that has to go.
Let me just take a minute. Is anyone else wishing to speak here? We gotta let me go. I know you don't plan. Okay, we have to let everybody speak first.
Okay.
And then after these two, we'll go three, and then we're gonna move everything to the second privilege of the floor because we have an agenda to take here, and I don't want these guys hearing a lot of them. They're right done. The lucky plan today?
Hi, I'm
Diane Crine. I live on Foster Valley Road in the town of Owego. I read with interest a recent article on Press Connects that was talking about the ban, or the gas drilling ban, the 1-year gas drilling ban that Enfield just put into place. And I had some thoughts as I was reading that, so I'll go through that. It's called Enfield enacts gas drilling ban for 1 year, and it appeared on June 15th. The town board voted at its regular meeting Wednesday night to enact a moratorium on any gas drilling development for an entire year to give the town of Enfield time to shore up its legal and legislative protections. So I couldn't help but wonder when I read that, where you guys are at on doing that sort of thing towards what they call legal and legislative protections. The vote in front of about 30 residents was unanimous in favor of the moratorium, although several board members originally had objections to the law. Enfield joins around 100 other municipalities across the state that have put into effect bans or moratoria on gas drilling, in part over concerns about the safety of the process of hydraulic fracturing. Supervisor Roy Barrier said that the passage of the law buys the town time to finish working on initiatives that will protect residents from potential harmful effects of the gas drilling industry. So once again, I couldn't help but wonder when I read this where you guys are at in that whole process. I think somebody said that, is there a time when we can, talk with you and find out where you're at with some of these things? Because maybe you're looking at some of these things, we just simply don't know. And I also wondered if you, as a board, could talk with some of these other boards that are looking at these issues and learn from them as to some of the issues that they're looking at that maybe you haven't thought of looking at yet to protect people in the town. The next move is the site plan review law that's hopefully up for a vote in August. Barrier said it will control any large development in the town. That's important to have that. There again, I couldn't help wonder when I read that if you're working on a site plan review, which honestly I don't really know what a site plan review is. You'd have to talk to the other town what that is. Maybe you already know. But I didn't wondered if that was something that you guys maybe are looking at. Community members applauded Wednesday's, the town is also pursuing a study of local aquifers to inform a proposed aquifer protection law, as well as working on a road protection law with other local towns and county government. Again, I wondered if you guys have looked at anything like that. Community members applauded Wednesday's action. It's a very strong first step to protect our town, said Nancy Sparrow, a member of Enfield's Neighbors for Safe Air and Water. We're very happy about it. We do hope that there will eventually be a ban, but this is a first step. Sparrow said the group, which has collected 900 resident signatures in favor of a ban, will now put its energy toward finding volunteers to help with the aquifer study and the town's updated comprehensive plan. So I thought about that too, and I thought, there's so many people here. Everyone here is here obviously because they care about this issue on both sides. And there's people in Enfield that are willing to put their own time, their own money towards this to help their town. And I think that's what we need to do too. I mean, this us and them mentality, for me, honestly, it's got to go. We've got to learn how to work together as a community, as a town, because we're one community. The landowners obviously care. The people on the environmental side obviously care. I would love a way that we could come together and figure this out as a town, because this is our community. Thank you.
Anyone else? We're good? Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna wait for you to second the first report.
Mr. Supervisor, trustees, council, I'm Jeff Collins. I live at the corner of McLean Valley and Route 38. In my younger days, I've walked the Appalachian Trail in its entirety. After two open heart surgeries, I can no longer do that. However, I've lived in this area for most of my 57 years, except for my education in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. I've also hiked through all our town woods, things of that nature. But after that, I've also been in the real estate business. I applaud these farmers, these men that are generations older than myself. I saw it because I made money selling before even this action came up. When the people left the farm, worked for IBM, which is left, and the taxes go up. I see that. I have respect and appreciation for each and every one of you. But when everyone talks about the EPA and everything else, and a lot of people here that are talking about that, usually are the ones talking about how bad government is. All I say is this. If they can't tell you what those special things are they're mixing up in that brew, right? If you're a culinary expert, like my mom or grandma would say, don't eat it. And that's protected under this law through this federal government. The other issue we have to approach, and I wish each and every one of you to think about really tough, from our western border to the other side of Binghamton is an aquifer that is federally protected. It's not just we here in town, in the town of Owego. This would affect, if there is a mistake. And I've heard, well here or there, but you know, there's explosions, there's people who don't follow the rules that are already established. Can we take that chance to not just affect each and every one of us sitting here, but the whole area in that 30-some miles? Last thing. In real estate, if anyone knows the word situs, situs means the economic value of your property and where it sets. I told you where I live. Companies came 5 years ago, offered us so much money. Let's put it this way. In my family, I have the luxury of not just realtors and car dealers, but my God, lawyers. Does anyone know the meaning of time is of the essence? I know, Counselor, you do. When they approached us at this hidden salary, reimbursement for our 27 acres, that was our reply. Time is not of the essence. But it's right at the corner of McLean Road. What runs to the north of us but the gas line? What runs right up on Rosenberg Road but the area, where they're building their other thing? We did not give in. We did not accept their offers. But let me tell you, in a week and a half, and then a month and a half, they were triple. And they're more than a lot of money than what I've heard, because I don't want to give erroneous statements. But we were offered very good money for that situs. Please, let's just back off here as a community, because again, you're affecting more people than you know. And again, my empathy to the farmers. It's sad, but I'll end with that. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move on with the agenda. If anyone else wants to speak on this issue, we're going to move to the second privilege of this board. I appreciate everybody's patience and continued respect for everybody's opinions and everybody's comments.
Well, again, we thank you for this.
We're going to move on with the agenda. I already said that the monthly statement was provided. We're going to file with the clerk. We have a letter from Congressman Hanna, who represents the southern part of this district, which is the village of Owego, discussing about the transportation bill in Washington and how what part he's on the committee, and just get an overview of the bill that he's working on. Tioga County Tourism sent us a letter saying that they have some limited funding available for facade beautification projects, 100% match, and amount of funding is $3,400. I don't think it's anything that practice that would be practical for the town. But if anybody can think of anything, I certainly would be amenable to sending that. We did G4. We did receive the equalization rate from Office of Real Property Taxes, which is, I believe, 80%. 80, right? Yeah. Okay. It's okay. We need to do a seeker on McHenry? No, we got the negative declaration, I'm sorry. Regarding, there is a, I hate to say this now. There's a vertical natural gas well being drilled on McHenry Road, which is up above by Gary Hunt Road. And this is a negative declaration that was forwarded to us. Also, as you know, I'm on the Association of Towns State Executive Committee, and after many years of leading the association, Jeff Haber will be stepping down. He goes back to the times of Tom Doty here. They were good friends, and Tom Doty was actually the president of this association at one time. But we had a meeting last month, and we're going to be appointing a new director in October, and this is just a letter letting us know, you know, people follow this, it's in the paper, etc. So we're looking forward to new leadership. Those of you that don't know, the Association of Towns is a statewide group of many towns that are get together to promote town issues at the state and federal government level, mostly the state, and there's also Association of Counties and Villages, and we all lobby to get what we need for the best for the area here, and it's a very good organization, and we look forward to Jerry Geist is going to be the new leader of this organization. Before you have the abstracts to be paid, is there a motion?
Make a motion to accept the abstract.
Is there a second? Second. Motion has been made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk take a roll call vote?
Morgan.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Moulton.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Castellucci.
Yes. No unfinished business, report to standing committees, anything, Wayne?
No.
Lynn? Dean?
Where do we stand in the exit 65, 66 lights?
We stand that I have a copy of the, all the money that we've expended on that. I'll get it to the board, and we're gonna have to meet, I guess, and maybe we can piggyback that on the, tomorrow. I'll get a copy of the expenses, and we can discuss that quick.
And I needed to add actually 3 things under individual personal matters.
3 things, you need another? 3? Okay, that's 5 total?
I think so.
All right, anything else? Barb?
No, just remind me everybody's workshop tomorrow.
Tomorrow at
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Should be fun. Okay. All right, so moving on, we have a letter from Hunt Engineering. Mick, you want to give us a little bit of history there? Hunt Engineering, Main Street.
Yeah, I know. They've they sent a proposal to their supervisor for the engineering to reconstruct. I mean, to design the engineering, put out the bid for the reconstruction of a water main in the Appalachian Creek that was actually wiped out by the flood of 2011.
Next, we need to appoint a part-time dog control officer based on the fact that Mrs. Schumacher is leaving. And so, you know what, you got this information?
motion that we hire Andrew Plan as the part-time dog control officer for weekends and on calls.
Is there a second? Discussion. You have all your shots?
I'm immune.
Yeah. You have to get them or not?
I do, that's what Kyle said.
All right. Okay, you've heard the motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Second privilege of the floor. I think you want to say something.
Oh, I do.
Okay, so I'll make this one exception.
I wouldn't even.
Anybody holds me to this, I'll deny it.
I wouldn't
Case
even
law.
make an exception. I think that opens the door for more exceptions.
What is your issue of fracking?
Go away.
I wanted to answer something that somebody asked. He said,
Well, how about you do that with the off-board then? Oh, okay, so that, we do have this policy on that, and the board seems to be, and I tend to agree, that we allow other towns to speak. I've been pretty firm about that in our other meetings.
yeah, I mean, what goes on here is affecting nearby towns, so I'm just.
Understood, but, we've been pretty consistent, and I'm not letting anybody else speak.
Can you pull the board?
Three.
Okay, thank you.
I will talk to you offline if you like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Again, next time if people can bring fans or air conditioning, I appreciate it. Oh, I know, you're killing me.
I just, sorry, Mr. Supervisor and town board, just a couple other comments that somehow I'm making before. There have been some concerns raised by some of the people against hydrofracking, that earthquakes were an issue. And the National Research Council just issued a report about 3 days ago. Don't worry much about quakes and fracking. And their findings basically were that the biggest risk was from wells where they're injecting wastewater, which is what happened in Ohio. That's a well-known incident. And none of what's been discussed today or what has been asked under the moratorium has anything to do with injecting wastewater underground. So I would ask you not to consider that issue. The other thing I forgot to mention before is Delta Engineering, you may be aware of this already, has come up with a template for towns to implement a road protection law.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're well aware
so
of it.
you're well aware of it. I just wanted to be sure you were, because they thought this all out, and 45+ communities have adopted this as a way to make sure that whoever damages the road is going to pay for it.
Yep, and where we're at, and actually, the association of towns I was
Thank
speaking
you.
of, they worked through that.
Mr. Jensen, did you want your comments, did you want to give me a copy?
Can I email it to you, Mara?
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, unless somebody has the air conditioning key. Nope, sit there.
I would just like to
Knock
say,
my blood pressure's off.
just like to make one comment. If somebody makes a comment that there's been, like, they want us to provide proof and evidence that there was, any sort of contamination, and that person's saying that there's been no contamination, then that person should provide evidence from every single drill, every single well that's drilled anywhere in the United States to prove that there's been not been contamination. It goes both ways.
Okay, that's what it does.
It goes both ways.
I agree.
I just have 2 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, Town Supervisor and Council, I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Miriam Benson, and I live on Pennsylvania Avenue in Appalachia. And I will make this very short. Basically, this is like Humpty Dumpty in the egg. When it's broken, you cannot put it back, period. The only person who had any sympathy that I feel for this is the gentleman who had talking about his difficulty in paying his farm's taxes. And I believe that there there are alternative revenue streams that these people can seek with wind farms. I believe that that also generates energy. It also can be an alternative revenue stream and go back into NYSEG. And I can't stress the fact that if there is anything that can go wrong, it will. You know, Murphy's taking care of us all. We know this for a fact. I mean, there's things like, you know, Chernobyl and the Daiichi power plant and all kinds of other environmental disasters that we have seen us manufacture. And admittedly, this, you know, this is not as dire an item, but still, you know, it does create all kinds of toxic issues if anything goes wrong. And as even the proposal supporters say, there is no guarantee. There is a guarantee if you don't do it. And the guarantee is we can take our time, we can wait till they actually want more money than they want now, and really cover all bases. I think that a moratorium would be in everybody's interests. And we could also, like you said, support perhaps other local industries like wind farming, which I know is, I know there are people in the southern tier who are manufacturing and putting up those windmills and wind dynamos. So I feel that, you know, we should try to explore the alternative revenue streams. Why should we cave into big interest? I mean, they have never been on our side. They create a bubble. They take, you know, economic wave to the top, and then it crashes. And that's been the history of major capitalism, you know, in this country. You know, unlike the grassroots small businesses and farms. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I know that you will do the right thing.
Hi, I'll make this short too. I'd just like to make a couple of corrections. It is difficult to document the water contamination because of the NDAs, but I suggest that you drive around Washington County in southern Pennsylvania. People who have driven around those roads have found 400 water buffaloes. Those water buffaloes wouldn't exist unless that water was contaminated. Those people cannot speak because in order to get a water buffalo, they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. In Bradford County, the count has been about 120 to 150. Secondarily, with all this profit that's supposed to come in, the gas companies are self-declaring as to how much gas they produce. So if you truly believe that these guys are going to declare that much gas so they can pay a lot of taxes, I'm not so sure that I would go there. But that's the way New York State is right now. They don't have a severance. They let the gas companies self-declare. So I just wanted to make a couple of those. And the second thing too, there is a history. There's history in Texas, there's history in Arkansas, there's history in Colorado, there's history in Wyoming. And this history is full of contamination, and you just got to take a look for it. And the history is, I feel bad for these farmers, but I think there's a little bit of fantasy here. A lot has been promised to them. But if you look at the history now, about 20% of the wells produce. So not all these farmers are going to make a lot of money. And they're not going to make the money right away. This well has to be connected to a pipeline that's then going to take it to the East Coast. Until the well produces, they're not going to make any royalties. So that's several years. And as far as gas drilling being in interest of us having the gas, the plan is, within about 5 years, is for this gas to be on the international market. You cheap gas will no longer be here. We will be competing the same way we compete with China and India for oil. These companies are owned. Chesapeake just sold all of their shares in Arkansas to Australia. So there's some misconceptions here, and I just want to make sure that we clarify a few things. Thank you again very much.